Welcome back, everybody, to the conclusion of the 2020 Great Lakes Open presented by Discraft, the world leader in disc sports. I'm Brian Earhart. Again, Tristan.
How's it going, everybody? We have a fun card today. Some crushers. We got Corey Ellis, who I don't know if he's been on coverage a whole lot, but
not a lot. But he's from West Virginia and has an absolute cannon, so it's going to be fun to watch here. We have Calvin Heimburg, we have Chris Dickerson, and Adam Hammis, of all players. So this is going to be awesome to watch them play this course. And again, shout outs to Gatekeeper Media for putting out such awesome graphics and awesome coverage. And they were kind of locked down in Philadelphia for quite some time when all the COVID stuff has been going on. So it's great to have them back out on the road. And yeah, now they're covering awesome cards like this. We have Calvin sitting at 20 under par and a couple 19 unders and a 16 under. And look at this leaderboard.
Yeah, a lot of these players on our card definitely have a chance at winning this tournament. And it's going to be exciting to see if they can make any moves.
Yeah, and moving into hole number one, same hole as always, but a lot of these players are going to be taking a big turnover line or a forehand line. And we've been seeing a pretty healthy balance of pars and birdies on this hole.
Yeah, this is definitely a tricky one to get right out of the gates. You don't really know what the wind is doing out there. And with how downhill it is, the angle control is really important.
Mm-hmm. And the wind did pick up a little bit more today, too. So it's going to be affecting a lot of these blind tee shots.
You see Calvin electing for the backhand. A little bit turned over into those trees. It's a pretty common place to be. There can be some tricky lies over there, so
absolutely.
Definitely have to scramble to get his par.
I did hear that Trevor Harbolt actually burned it over into hole 2's fairway and then threw in for a 2.
Wow, that's a crazy 2.
There's hope. And yet Corey, what I love about Corey is his throw is just straight up trunk rotation. He's tall, lanky, and takes no more than 3 steps. And he starts maybe a third up the tee pad. This is a Buzz SS, I believe. That is smoked.
That needs to sit down, I feel like. Oh my gosh.
That's how you throw 500 feet with a Buzz SS.
Yeah, there it is.
And Dickerson has a pretty healthy balance of backhand, forehand. He'll really just attack the hole however the wind is playing more favorably.
Yeah, he has really great angle control either way.
Yeah, and definitely why he's one of the top players in the world. He is opting for, it looks like a little bit of a hyzer flip, and he is teeing off to the side of the tee pad, which the TD did give us the go-ahead to do on some of the holes today. A lot more direct than a lot of the other lines the players were throwing.
Late flip with a little bit more stable of a disc, but that definitely needs to sit down as well.
Just on the edge of circle 2, that faded out just a bit too much. Those downhill turnovers are very hard to land, so it's impressive to see what these players are doing. And here's what I knew Adam was going to do. Adam does not mess around, and he has a giant sidearm to match that.
Yeah, he'll be throwing a force here. Probably just on pure hyzer, I would assume.
Very close to that. One of the bigger sidearms on tour, most definitely. Mm-hmm. That came out with so much pace.
That looks really good. Just needs to sit soft.
He should be just on the edge, just outside circle 1.
And you see Calvin really had no line out there, but gave himself a putt for par.
Oh.
That's a great run from back there.
Just a little bit low from Adam. You'd wish your lie was, you know, maybe a foot to the left, but he knew he probably cut it a little bit too tight on that drive. Oh,
That's a great two. After going that long of the basket, you don't see that very often. And then to make that comeback putt, he would have had a little right to left headwind. So that's a great putt.
I actually had played the last 2 rounds with Corey, and his circle two putting has been absolutely ridiculous. So you could tell he's been putting in some work in the second off season, so to speak. Calvin misses his putt. Adam also makes his putt for par. And that's just a rough start from Calvin. You just hate to be back there with no line to the basket from, you know, inside circle 2.
Yeah, definitely. It's pretty unfortunate, but that is, I mean, all of us know that that's not where you want to be.
Exactly. That's the miss, and he probably knew it right out of his hand. Hole number 2. This hole was probably one of the harder playing par 4s in the course, averaging a 4.17, and we can pretty much attribute it to how challenging this approach shot is to the green.
Yeah, this second shot is so uphill, and you have really tough footing with an extremely uphill run-up. If you get enough distance off the tee, though, you can give yourself slightly flatter footing.
Yes, and I like that the hole kind of requires you to throw a huge tee shot. Corey blasts this one just to the base of that lip, so that might be some tough footing. They kind of want you to throw this long flex shot to get over that ridge.
Yeah, it's really tricky because we're trying to throw like a 475-foot holding turnover with enough height as well, so...
And as Dickerson's fades out a little bit too far to the left, Adams gets a weird wind play. He'll at least have a little look to the fairway. And that's not where you want to be, crossing over into the other rough, and that's actually way thicker.
Yeah, as soon as you're off the fairway on this hole, it's really easy to go to the other side.
Yeah. And here's Corey just... oh, no.
Wow.
Smoked that up the hill, and he was on the bottom side of that ridge, too, so that's a really tough uphill run-up.
It's a beautiful angle there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that gets him to just about Circle 2's edge.
Adam from a similar spot.
He's very well versed at these types of shots, and being over to the right side, especially if you're not running the birdie, is not a terrible place to be. But Calvin is in the place that no player wants to be. There's not even really much of a look towards the basket.
No, yeah, this would be a really incredible up and down if he can pull this one off. He gives himself a look. That should be inside Circle 2. Like we said, on that right side, if you're not playing for birdie, it's totally fine to be over there. It really gives you a pretty easy approach.
Adam should be up and down for the 4. Chris goes a little long, but not too bad. And here's Calvin for a pretty sweet save. Just left. Corey for another birdie. I believe I saw him birdie this hole 2 out of the 3 rounds, which is insanely impressive.
That is extremely impressive, considering this is one of the hardest holes to reach and birdie on the course.
Oh, yeah, averaging over par. And it's really interesting. This is a hole that used to be called a par 5. So it's interesting to see how the game has evolved. The hole actually moved back to the original position, but they just changed the par.
Yeah, a lot of people that didn't used to run it are running it now.
Yeah, and it's really interesting. Hole number 3, one of my absolute favorite tee shots in this course. We've said it past 2 rounds that we've commentated on. So many different ways to attack this hole.
Yeah, a lot of players can choose to go big with a distance driver and try to land somewhere in this area, or just play a shorter shot with really any disc you want. and then have a little bit of a longer but more manageable approach, I guess,
Yes.
with being able to see the basket.
Yeah, and it's interesting. The more left you challenge that OB, the easier it is to see the basket. And Corey has been throwing a force on this hole.
Needs that to late flip, and is trying to.
And he's gone out of bounds, but he's gone out far enough to where he'll still have an okay approach to the basket to save 4. And Chris rips this disc. And that actually has a little stability to it.
That's great. Yeah, a little Anheuser probably out of the hand.
That's heading towards the left fairway. That's perfect. That
That's
is the perfect shot.
Perfect tee shot. See Adam going with that mid-range play with the buzz, trying to get to that shorter landing zone, probably just to trust his forehand on that second shot.
Exactly. And that's what I like about this hole. You can go driver mid-range, or you can go mid-range driver.
See Calvin with a lot of Anheuser out of the hand, actually.
And I really like that play as well, just taking something slightly overstable and slamming it nose down and letting it slowly stable out. There's that big sidearm from Adam. That is huge.
That looks great. Beautiful shot there.
Kind of a mirror image of the round we just saw yesterday. Corey from a standstill, about 350.
A little early, looks like.
That's got to sit down. Okay.
Chris just throwing putter. Probably could just barely see the band of the basket on that shot.
This is Corey to save par. Rough bogey to take here.
That's a very uncharacteristic miss from Calvin.
Yeah, we've seen him hit way crazier putts than that with way more danger behind it. But again, coming down the stretch of a big tournament, knowing that you have a shot at the win, there's always context that's missed. That's a good birdie to get from Chris. And really parring the first 2 holes is not that big of a deal. Both averaged right around par. And then this one averaged again over par. So getting the birdie is pretty solid.
Good cleanup there from Corey. We'll have just a tap-in birdie for Adam.
Hole number 4. One of the weirder holes that we've seen this week. Weird in the sense that there are a lot of patches of good landing zones and patches of rough landing zones, sometimes even within 5 feet in diameter. So players are really trying to make a precise landing with this tee shot, trying to crash in the middle of the fairway, but try not to crash too middle of the fairway or you might land in one of those red zones.
Yeah, it's definitely just trusting your shot and hoping you have a good lie after that, really.
And Dickerson has hit the really well-placed trees that make you pick outside or inside, and that is definitely red zone. Tough up for a birdie there.
And that shot gets through pretty well, and he'll have a great line from there, actually.
Oh, yeah. If that pushes, it's going to be decent. Yep.
That's a great shot.
And
past all the trees.
That
there.
window for the hyzer outside is really small, so that's a very solid hyzer to throw. Corey's looking to do the same thing.
Yeah, and you see Corey take this higher line, which does open up that gap a little bit more. A little bit of an interesting drop to the right there.
That's a big sidearm.
Yeah, and like we said earlier, he's very proficient both ways.
Mm-hmm. Corey throwing a forehand roller zone, it looks like.
A little step roller there.
Not too bad. I mean, he's just trying to play for par at this point. Adam also going zone. One of the better zone throwers that I've probably ever seen. And I think right when he gets that in his hand, it's almost a guarantee up and down.
Yeah, and he throws it from so many different distances on so many different lines.
Corey gets up there with the zone as well. Calvin with a great up there.
Oh my gosh.
Oh no. And that's the first spit out I've seen on a Chain Star Pro, actually. That's really unfortunate. That was also coming down as it was getting into the basket. That's just some weird action there.
Yeah, extremely unfortunate there.
It's always interesting taking another 20, 25 footer after your card mate just spits out from the same distance. Good putt from Chris. It's a good birdie from Calvin. Yeah, the hole's so interesting. As long as your tee shot is okay, in a decent position, the upshot to the basket's not difficult whatsoever.
Yeah, it definitely puts a lot of pressure on that tee shot. And speaking of pressure on a tee shot is hole 5. We have a very specific line. You can choose to go a more inside line or this more outside line. You can see the 2 gaps right here. And then you're really just trying to get your disc to then stand up and push straight after it gets through this initial gap.
It's so... We've seen multiple times, too, a player completely pure the line, but then not land it short enough to skip with all this hard pan dirt, so it actually goes way deep as well. So I actually like the backhand turnover because of the fact that you won't get that long skip deep and you can be more precise with the play. I'm seeing a lot more players take that this year. That wind is definitely picking up out here. Adam goes Raptor.
He gets a straight skip around that tree, which will leave him a good putt.
That one tree right at the gap right there is perfectly placed.
And that's pretty picture perfect right there.
Yeah.
Did we mention he has a power sidearm too?
Yeah.
A little bit of an outside line, gets that rough kick, but he should have a decent up and down.
Even a run?
Oh.
Wow. It's a great bid from back there.
This is definitely in Chris's wheelhouse.
And Chris probably the best pump faker on tour.
I definitely agree with you on that. Sweet putt from Adam.
For being probably the shortest hole on the course, this definitely feels like a bonus birdie.
It does, and it's interesting because it averaged right around par. 2.9. But I think it's because if you do hit early, you still have a pretty easy up and down. But you do want to take the birdie on this with how short the hole is. Nice birdie from Calvin. That was about a picture-perfect line for him. Oh.
And hole number 6. This is an interesting tee shot. We're kind of have a little bit of a valley shot going up into this gap. And this gap is a lot farther away from the tee pad than it looks. People are going to be trying to play more of a pushing hyzer, try to get more on the right side. Because even if you try to play to that right side, you're still going to end up more in the middle.
Yeah, it's so interesting. We're seeing a lot of players try to get aggressive with some 11 and 12 speed discs, and the trick with trying to get farther up the fairway is keeping it centered. The moment the faster disc runs out of juice, it'll fade off left, and you have a much harder look at the basket here. Adam is definitely going with a faster driver.
And you see him compensate for the faster disc with a little bit of Anheuser out of the hand, but then he just didn't quite commit to that left line as much.
Yeah, lots of different ways to play this hole. I would say a lot of the bigger arms are going to be looking to throw more of a control driver off the tee, and that's what this looks like.
Yeah, and this low line, I think, is the play. Control that skip off the ground. As soon as you're putting it high, it really moves left really quick.
Yeah, it gives you that option to fade out to the left side. Chris's looks pretty solid as long as that sits down, and that's a perfect tree kick.
Perfect kick. That is ideal position right there. And that came out hot.
And if you're a newer player getting into disc golf and just learning the form for the first time, watching Corey, he's been on video multiple times. He has such a simple X step. It's so pleasant to watch. So definitely he's one to watch if you're learning that form right there. Calvin sat to a pretty good spot, and he'll be right there in circle 1.
That's kind of not what you want on that approach. Just a little bit too low. And this ground, despite being hard pack, really doesn't skip a whole lot.
No, it's that slight hill. It's that tiny bit of hill up to the basket that you think you have to land 30 feet short to slide it, but really it's more about 20 to 15 feet. And Adam from C2, and he has a decision to make here.
Kind of caught in that in between there. And he's really lucky to honestly not have that roll off of that.
Exactly.
Good sit there.
Yeah, as you can see how short the grass is on this mound. And there's a nice birdie from Dickerson. He's 3 under.
You can see Corey is just a little bit more tentative on those putts just because of that spit out he had a couple holes ago.
And it's hard to let go. I mean, we have such awesome baskets on tour, and the fact that, you know, you don't see that many dead center spit outs happen on the good baskets. So hopefully he can let that go. Hole number 7, again, a very technical par 4, placement oriented off the tee. If your drive does go a bit too straight into the tall grass, you have an option for a hyzer around, but really you're trying to play a hyzer through the gap, challenging the left OB, making your approach to this guarded basket a little bit less severe, but lots of different approach shots you're seeing on this hole.
Yeah, this definitely takes a lot of technicality off the tee to place it where you want, but if you mess up your shot, you should still be able to work something out for your approach.
And Calvin has challenged the OB a lot. I actually did not see an OB marker, so I think he's okay. But yeah, challenging the ceiling and giving your disc enough room to move left is the hardest part here. And Dickerson puts his in the fairway, a little bit too far right for a comfortable approach, but he will have something.
Not again! God!
That's sat in an okay spot. And he actually might have a gap to go around, knowing Corey.
Yeah, he might have that hyzer line. Adam here.
Got a much more unfortunate kick, and is he going standstill around?
Oh my gosh.
I think he unfortunately hyzered right into the middle of that patch.
Yeah, maybe just a little inside. That's very ambitious going standstill from there. See Adam going super high. Trying to just crash it in there a little bit early.
And this is a good spot from Calvin. A little bit less severe of an anhyzer he has to throw.
Yep, get to control the angle into that green a little bit better.
Those giant high panning anhyzers are not easy to control because then nose angle becomes an issue as well. Throwing the disc that high and still having the disc turn over. Great shot.
And Adam just has to pitch up there with that tree.
Oh, no.
And the skip and roll. That's unfortunate.
Oh,
sit down.
Man. And at this point, you feel like you're having to play catch up, especially after seeing Dickerson just bury another birdie putt.
That's a great putt. That
Great
takes a lot
comeback
of mental confidence to, after a couple rollaways, to still be able to jam that one.
Calvin snags a par.
And we have a small straight.
Hey everybody, I'm Paige Pierce, and today I'm going to talk to you about my 2020 Tour Series disc, the Buzz. What I love about this disc is its versatility. It's almost as far as a fairway driver, but it's so straight like a mid-range. The Buzz is a staple in my bag. I think this mold is perfect for anybody. With its slow speed and its controllable flight, it's good for all skill levels, and anybody would benefit from having a Buzz in their bag.
Hole number 8 is the most blind shot on the course. Most players are going to be playing just a big hyzer over the top, trying to crash the trees down here by the green and hoping you fall inside the circle.
Yeah, and we have a lot of players playing this tournament that have played Am Nationals, and they've played a couple DGLOs, and they've thrown this hole enough times to where they know exactly when it comes out of their hand if it's going to be a good shot or not.
Well, Chris taking a really wide line, clipping some early stuff.
There was a steep crosswind off the tee, so we
Okay.
might be seeing some players take that over the right tree now. And that's what's so challenging about this hole. It's a lot of trusting your depth perception. Oh, man.
Wow, crazy reaction off the tree there. It almost got like a skip roll bounce.
That was nasty. And again, like I said, the players know right out of their hand
Wow, another really interesting reaction off the ground.
And I think Adam was maybe thinking he was going to get affected by the crosswind, but it might have died down because he's right there in circle 1. And great shot from Corey.
Had to go with a little bit more of a hyzer putt because of those trees. That's a great putt.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of tricky gaps over there on that side of the basket.
And Chris is feeling it. His stroke looks really dialed in. His tee shots look really competent.
That's a great birdie there from Corey.
Yeah, that's a momentum putt right there after a rough last hole. It's always nice to be unpleased with your tee shot only to find that you're 20 feet from the basket.
Yeah, especially on this hole, because
Yeah.
even if you think you know exactly where it is, the tree reactions really can leave you in a totally different spot.
Exactly. Calvin's going to tap in the par, and we are moving into hole number 9. And the interesting thing about hole 9 that I'm seeing more and more players are throwing roller on this hole. I think it's because of the visibility of the line. People started taking it, people started having success with it, and a lot of other players wanted in on that ease of access to this green. Those limbs on those guardian trees are getting so low, and the power flex shot for the righties is getting really challenging. And as you can see, Dickerson is lining up the roller.
A lot of cut on this one. Needs to get right. That's just fine.
Yeah, and that's not bad at all. And that's the thing. If you don't get it to cut or flip over in time, you still have these thick bushes to catch it.
And Adam, you see, electing for that air shot. And there are those branches.
Very common miss. And Corey, I would say, is going inside as well. Mm-hmm. That's got to keep going.
Wow, that flipped really late. That's a beautiful shot.
He got a decent kick out to an okay spot. He might still be in circle 2 with something. That was a run for sure.
Definitely. Oh, and a huge putt there from Adam.
Again, after a bogey on 7, which you never want to take, back-to-back 2s on some tough par 3s. Definitely feels good.
Chris looks to be lining up the right foot step putt, maybe because of some bush that he's in. Oh, and that's a
Sweet
beautiful putt.
And what I think he did the patented germ step. He actually had his back foot behind his mini, front foot was in front of his lie, and then he picked his foot up and then putted the disc. So it's a legal putt, and it's actually a great scramble tool if you are in a weird bush like that.
Yeah, and if you haven't tried it, it is very hard to get the coordination right
Yes.
and get the power right on your putt.
And even to remember to use that rule to your advantage. Calvin with a par yet again, and that was the front 9. Chris is on a bit of a heater, so to speak, 6 down through 9 holes, and just some rough bogey strokes for the rest of our card mates that are holding them back slightly.
Yeah, Chris, as you see, is moving up closer to that lead. See if he can keep advancing on that on the back 9, and thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, we will catch you there.